Hello. All right, cool. Hi everyone, my name is Kennedi Carter. I am an alumni of Jordan. I think I graduated in 2017, and time is flying. It goes by really fast. But yeah, so I'm just here to show you guys some work, talk about my process and how I got started. This is some of that work that I was making back in my sophomore year. I'm looking at it now and I'm kind of giving myself a portfolio review in front of you guys, but I can see where a bit of my influences were at that time. I was finding a lot of my, what I call references, so work that you look at to inspire what it is that you're going to be producing. Yeah, so I kind of was just looking to Pinterest, Tumblr at the time. I was a big Tumblr kid. Instagram for inspiration and using that as, I guess, a guide for what it is that I wanted to make with my work. This is a photo that I took back in 2016. I remember that Miss Ryan wanted to enter it into some sort of photo competition that I think was called Durham's Finest, and it ended up winning. And even looking at this work now, it still feels like something I would make. And I had brought my sister out there. My dad took me to this underpass that was near Central. I remember I took this for one of my senior projects. I was wanting to make photographs that felt influenced by Renaissance and Baroque paintings and portraiture. I put this particular works in there mainly because it's another instance of feeling like past work that I've made is influencing the work that I'm making currently. Around this time in 2017, I was really starting to just come to the realization that I was really into portraits and working with people to make photos. I knew that just landscape photography, still life, I felt like that wasn't for me, but I knew that I wanted to work with people, so I was doing a lot of my, in quotations, casting through Instagram, finding folks through there, and some of my classmates as well. So 2018, around this time, I've already graduated. I'm starting college, but kind of like aimlessly floating through there. I went to UNCG, and initially I was wanting to be in their photography program, but in order to, I guess, get through it, they were trying to have me drawing, and I'm not good at drawing. And whenever I told the professor that, he would basically BS me and be like, oh, you're just not seeing it right, you have to picture it in your mind. No, that's not working. So I ended up leaving that program and minoring in photography and picking up an African American Studies major. I was a big fan of history, really into that. So I knew that, I guess, getting a liberal arts degree of some sort, it wouldn't be lost on me to pursue that, mainly because I think history was something that could eventually influence my work. During this time, I'm still taking portraits, meeting up with the different people. On the farthest end, that's a classmate. And I guess the one after that, that's someone that wanted their photo taken. I remember that they went to school at Central and they were wanting their picture taken. And so I met up with them, did that. And then on the last two are my god sisters, and I would like photograph them in my backyard. So during this time, when I created these images, I was still in school, but I just was feeling as though something wasn't working. I wanted to really dedicate my time to figuring out how to go freelance, and I ended up leaving. I told my mom, I was like, yeah, college, this isn't really working out for me right now. I'll circle back later on, but this is just what I feel called to do in this moment. So I continued taking my photos, but I knew that I didn't want to just take portraits. I wanted to be more intentional with the portraits that I was making. So this was after, on the farthest side, I'm bad with my lefts and my rights, but on the right side, I remember I took this photo shortly after I left college. I had gone up to New York for a portfolio review. I think it was one of my first or second times going to New York. I had casted the folks that I wanted to be in the photographs through Instagram, and the actual setting I found through a friend that I met on the internet. It was her grandmother's house. And honestly, though this was taken in 2018, it's just one of those photos that have followed me a great deal throughout my career. The following one after it is another very well-received photo that I was making. The third photo was one that I took at a cookout of a young boy. And I think about this photo a lot sometimes, mainly because there's just this look in his eyes that feels very timeless. And in that final image, it doesn't really read well on the screen, but it was a photo that I had made in my backyard, and I had edited it through Visco. I had posted it through there as well by accident because I didn't really know how to use that app. And they asked me if they could curate that image, so that was the first time I really had my work put in a show. 2019 was when I started working with Black horsemen. I knew that I was really into history and documentary photography as well. Again, this was just the time where I was doing any type of photography that I guess like went hand in hand with portraits. So I was trying to do editorial stuff, doing journalism stuff, doing documentary style stuff, which pretty much goes hand in hand with journalism. So yeah, I referenced this series of photos in reference to the photos that I made for my senior project here, and how I feel in some way that it was an influence, mainly because I'm looking at history, figuring out how to incorporate the styles from different time periods and bringing them into a particular project. So this was one of those, I think this was one of the works that I made for my first solo show in a museum out in Raleigh, Cam Raleigh. And I pretty much, in this project, took Elizabethan style portraiture, Baroque style portraiture, and the clothing that you would typically see in those kinds of paintings, and bring them into a contemporary photograph featuring Black sitters. 2020 was a major shift in just how I overall operated. At this time I was living with my parents, so I was still just, you know, taking the work as it came to me. I was making work for the New York Times. They would send me to do really weird, kooky jobs all throughout North Carolina. And I think the summer rolls around and there were major protests that were happening at the time. We're in the heat of the pandemic, so things are super intense. But I just remember I was getting so much work in comparison to last year, which I thought was really weird. But I later found out that it was mainly because editors were going out of their way to find more Black photographers. And then I think in August, I was out on a job, and I remember a few months back, British Vogue, their editors over there had reached out to me on Instagram. They're like, hey, can you send me a PDF of your work? I'm like, yeah, sure, but I don't know what they would want to do with it, because I wasn't really doing a lot of editorial stuff, and I was doing a lot of what people would call test shoots. Test shoots are pretty much where you are collaborating with a stylist, hairstylist, that building a whole team and making some images that are in collaboration with your whole team. So that was pretty much what my portfolio was consistent of. I didn't have much editorial work. And so I send my PDF over, and a few months later, while I'm out working this job in Asheville, they're like, hey, are you free this date? And I'm like, yeah, I'm free this date, but what for? And they're like, we can't tell you yet. And I'm like, that's really weird and shady to me, but whatever, go off. And so they eventually asked where I'm from. I'm like, North Carolina, but my family's from Texas and Houston and this, that, and the third. And I was like, they're asking a lot of questions, and there's only one person that has the power to choose who would take their picture and ask all these questions. So I knew it in my spirit that it was her, and I'm a big Beyonce fan. And they asked me if I would like to photograph her, and I'm like, absolutely. So I go out there, do the project. They had me shooting 15-hour days. It was really intense, and I was very tired after. Thank you guys so much for listening. And